What's going on, everybody? Stevie here with another video. Hope everybody's doing well out there. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the leak that we got from Big Reecey regarding a cab that was on the leaked list. And that cabinet is Alien vs. Predator. Now, this was one of the titles that I was kind of wishy-washy on thinking it could actually happen. But Big Reecey basically showed us a picture with some info. We got 10 titles that are going to be on this cabinet, and the video that Big Reecey put out got removed, supposedly because Arcade1Up asked them to remove it. So does that mean this cabinet's real? Does that mean it's a possibility, but it's kind of up in the air with the licensee? I don't really know. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the two head-to-head tables that are available on Amazon right now for $5.99. And that is the Pac-Man Black Series and the ms.pacman Black Series. The reason I want to talk about these head-to-head tables is because I feel like that form factor doesn't get enough spotlight. So I wanted to kind of touch on the form factor and why I feel that when they do some of these, Pac-Mans and ms.pacmans, and I know they've been doing a lot of them in that form factor, why I think it's actually the smartest idea, because they have tried some other titles where I feel like it's not really the greatest fit for that form factor. So we're going to talk about that as well. And the last thing I'm going to tell you guys about is a cabinet that I got my eyes on, because I recently did a video where I was telling you guys I had FOMO for the Street Fighter Deluxe and the Mortal Kombat 2 Deluxe. Well, things have changed, and I'm going to explain to you why and what this new cabinet is that has my attention and will 100% end up in the Man Cave Arcade. So we're going to talk about all that right after this. So welcome back to Steve V's Man Cave Arcade. Always appreciate you guys clicking the video, giving it a watch. It means a lot to me, so thank you very much. Now, in today's video, I gave you guys a mouthful of things I wanted to talk about, but we're going to get to the most important thing, and that is this leak that we got from Big Reecey regarding a cabinet that was on the leaked list, and that's Alien vs. Predator. Now, we actually saw an image of this cabinet with some info, all around the cabinet, as far as, the size of the screen, the coin door, all that jazz, 10 games, and we even got a game list. And the game list is pretty solid. It's a Capcom game list. We got like Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins, Strider, Capcom Sports Club. I think Final Fight was on there as well. So we got a really solid game list. And it's a cabinet that a lot of people have been wanting. Mainly 19K Fox. But definitely a cabinet that has been, something that a lot of people have put on like lists and, voted for in polls. So Big Reecey did this video, and it was very exciting to kind of hear this info, finally see something fresh, something new. And then within, it seemed like hours. I don't know how long this actual video was up, but to me it seemed like hours. And then all of a sudden it was gone. So I kind of heard through the grapevine that supposedly Arcade1Up asked them to remove this video. And when you hear news like that, you could take it, two different ways. You can either take it as it is a real cabinet that's going to be coming out and they don't want it spoiled, or it's not official yet and they're afraid that this might jeopardize their chance of actually making it official. We have seen Big Reecey kind of bring some news on some other titles. I think Double Dragon was one of them. We actually seen a Double Dragon cabinet at their kind of store-ish thing that they had, where there was QR codes, but I don't know if you could actually leave with a cabinet from that store. I don't really know how it worked, but we did see the Double Dragon cabinet, and it just seemed like something that was supposed to happen, but unfortunately, due to retailers not really being interested in taking that title, it never actually came to fruition. But he was right. There was a Double Dragon cabinet, and that was it. We saw it. So I think he's very credible, and I do think there is a high chance of this actually happening if it didn't get ruined by the fact that it was already leaked. So we're going to see what happens. Obviously, this is a 2024 cabinet, So time will tell. But it was definitely exciting to see this cabinet. It's in a big blue form factor. It's a 3-player control deck. It's got all the bells and whistles that are kind of coming out right now with, their deluxe cabs, as far as like not having a riser, it being all one slick piece, the coin door and all that jazz. So it's exciting. Hopefully it does end up coming to fruition. Alien vs. Predator is a great game. And again, I thought the game list was solid. Is this something that's going to end up in my man cave arcade? Probably not. I'm kind of very picky with what I'm going to bring into my man cave right now. But it is a cabinet that at least kind of creates some excitement within me, because Arcade1Up kind of been a little stale lately. So nice to see something new, and hopefully this does end up happening, because I do think there will be a lot of people out there that will definitely be interested in buying this cabinet. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the 2 head-to-head tables that showed up in an email. Basically, Arcade1Up was saying, these are available on Amazon if you're interested, $5.99. A little expensive, but for whatever reason, the head-to-head tables were always a little more expensive. I don't know why, but it is what it is. At the beginning, it did seem like that was a form factor where they were putting a ton of games at a time where they were just putting like 2 to 4 games on cabinets. So at first it kind of made sense, but now not really. I don't really get why it's so expensive, but it is what it is. Now, me personally, this is a form factor I actually like. I do feel like it's a classic form factor that does belong to be in the mix. And I actually feel like it's one of those form factors that, at least to me, it's always nice having at least one cocktail table in your collection. Or again, as Arcade1Up calls it, a head-to-head table. Now, they play around with different titles. Obviously, their main titles that they've put on these head-to-head tables are Namco titles. Either Pac-Man with, 8 to 10 to 12 games, ms.pacman with the same kind of thing. I feel like that is always solid to do, because at least to me, that's what I grew up playing on these head-to-head tables were, vertical games, and most of the time it was either Namco games or, a 60-in-1, where the majority of the games were kind of Namco. They did have, some Nintendo, and they did have some Capcom and Atari, but Namco was kind of the main thing when it came to the 60-in-1. Like the majority of the games I found were Namco games. Games like, Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, Junior Pac-Man, Galaga, Galaxian, Galaga 3, Dig Dug 2, games like that, right? So basically, when I see Arcade1Up come out with these head-to-head tables and they kind of stick to like more the Namco thing, yeah, it's a lot of the same, but at the end of the day, I think it's very smart, and I think it is one of those form factors where I could definitely see, casuals buying it and, have it in a corner somewhere with 2 stools, or, it's kind of something that people of my generation or a little bit older, they might see that form factor and it might bring them back to, their time as a kid, maybe at like Pizza Hut, because I know Pizza Hut used to have, cocktail tables. I played one at Pizza Hut. One of my fondest memories as a kid was being at a birthday party in like 94, 95, playing a cocktail table at Pizza Hut that had a 16-in-1. So, there's a connection. Specifically with me, there's a connection. And I feel like with some people, there could also be that connection too if they were to see that form factor. So again, I know the Namco thing is kind of like, a re-release or kind of like regurgitating the same kind of style of games for this form factor. But I do think it is the smartest way to go, because they have tried to do Street Fighter 2 and, a bunch of horizontal Capcom games. They did the Midway Legacy and, that head-to-head form factor. They did Marvel vs. Capcom and that head-to-head form factor. And to me, even though I thought, some of them kind of looked cool, playing on them is a miss, because they put such a small screen, 17-inch monitor, and when you're playing head-to-head, they cut it in half. So you're playing on such a small little screen when you're playing against somebody else. And it just, I don't know, it's not the best way to play those games. But when it comes to the vertical Namco games, I definitely think it's a lot better to play on, in that form factor. Again, I do think it plays to, a certain generation, people from the 80s. And also, I feel like they've come a long way with these head-to-head tables, because there was a time where, they were really short. You had to try to find a riser or some type of legs to add to it just to get it to a comfortable height. Now they're at a comfortable height. They're making them look a little more sleek. So yeah, I definitely think it's a cool form factor, and I think it's very smart for Arcade1Up to at least make this form factor, because I do think there will be people that will buy it. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is kind of an update from my last video. In my last video, I told you guys I was interested in upgrading to the Street Fighter 2 Deluxe and the Mortal Kombat 2 Deluxe if, it made sense. Because I told you guys I would probably have to sell those two cabinets that I have, and it would just kind of require, me really thinking, is it worth it? Because again, a lot of those games I already have, so basically it would be more for the aesthetic. Well, even though I still think the aesthetic is beautiful, I have to kind of think about the fact that, I don't really play those two cabinets a lot. And I have updated them 3 times. And I kind of told you guys in the last video that after 3 times, I wasn't going to update cabinets anymore. But I did break that rule for Pac-Man. So, with that being said, I did decide I will break this rule again. But it's not for those 2 cabinets that I mentioned in my last video. It's going to be for Ms. Pacman. But it's not the Ms. Pacman Deluxe that's coming out now. It's actually going to be the Class of 81 Deluxe. Now, the reason I want to pick up this cabinet is because, number one, I actually really like that cabinet, and I really like the game list. I had the original Class of 81, and that was my most played cabinet for the whole time that I had it. Now, when I sold it, I tried to make the decision of picking one Namco cabinet to have in my collection. And I ended up picking the Pac-Man one. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? I need both. Now, if Arcade1Up did come out with the original blue Ms. Pacman that they were originally going to do in the deluxe form factor, I would have bought that in a heartbeat. But they didn't. They made it black. Does it look bad? No. Is it authentic though? No. And for me, I'm more into the authentic look. So I had to kind of think about it. And after, a week or two of thinking about it, I kind of realized that the Class of 81 is something that I could actually see buying and keeping in my collection long term. Now you're probably thinking, why would you think that if you sold your original one? When I sold my original one, I was actually thinking about replacing the Class of 81 with the Deluxe and replacing my Pac-Man with the Deluxe Pac-Man. It was after a couple days when I kind of told myself that I wanted to consolidate and just have one of them. Well, the way it kind of goes sometimes, you kind of go back to your original plan, and now I realize that is what I always really wanted. I just tried to kind of convince myself otherwise, but now I do realize that is the cabinet that I want to bring into my collection and that I know I will play a lot. I just love those 80s Namco titles. That's really my bread and butter when it comes to my love of arcades. So that's why I do feel comfortable picking up that cabinet. And I actually have something for sale right now that once it sells, I will definitely bring in that cabinet with that money. So it's all about the waiting game right now. Once that item that I'm selling sells, I will pick up the Class of 81. So hopefully you guys will be seeing it in the Man Cave Arcade relatively soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely excited to see what ends up happening with the leak of Alien vs. Predator. Again, we're going to have to wait till 2024 to find out if it's real or not, but it's definitely a little excitement that was needed for this community. Again, the head-to-head tables, I'm happy with what Arcade1Up is putting out right now. I think it's very smart. Is it for everybody? No. Is it one of those form factors that you're going to buy a pile of them? Probably not. But having at least one of them, or, for the casuals out there that maybe just want like one arcade item in their collection, I feel like those head-to-head tables are a great thing to have. and going with Namco titles, which, you know, would be all vertical games. I think that's very smart, and I am very, very excited to get the Class of 81 back in my collection. That was what I originally wanted. I convinced myself out of it, but at the end of the day, the heart wants what the heart wants. So Class of 81 will be coming back to the Man Cave Arcade, and then after that, it's just waiting for the Golden Tee Deluxe whenever that happens. So really excited to get that Class of 81 back in the collection, and then after that, it's just the waiting game for the Golden Tee Deluxe whenever that comes out, because I'm sure they will redo Golden Tee because they redo everything. I know they came out with that XL, but give it some time. Golden Tee Deluxe will be coming around the corner. So have a great day, you guys. Thanks so much for watching the video, and hope you guys enjoyed. Take care.